One of the best ways to understand an ecosystem is simply to walk through it. Welcome, or welcome back to another episode of Pandora through a Biologist's eyes. For this one, we're going to explore another of the habitats or biomes that we have in this game, and it's going to be this one over there, the Thorny Wilds biome. So we have those biomes are all over it's one of the Kinglor Forest biomes. And it's not the only location where you can find this, but I thought we're going to walk along it because so far I don't think I have shown much of some of the other areas in the Kinglor. And the particular one we're looking at is in the shadow, going to be in the shadow of this constellation here, the Wood Sprite Arches. So you can see some of the characteristic plants that make out the or define, I guess, the Thorny Wilds biome, which are those weird Hydra-looking ones. And so far here, you might recognize this one. I don't think I've spent too much time in it, but I've made some shorts about it. It is the part of the big leaf biome over here. And here we can see those structures. They're really impressive. I like those roots growing on the other side of it.
Is inflexible as stone.
I like how they're just like gossiping. That's also interesting. We see there's like, blonde is also common in Navi apparently. So they're not just all dark haired. Because in the movies, I think everyone we see is kind of like black or dark haired. And when they kind of like remake the avatar, or I think the recombinants or whatever the Quaritch and Co people are called in the movies, they all have black hair. Even though I don't think they all have black hair. I'm not sure. Well, anyways, we always see of them, especially with the Metcaina and the Omaticaya, they all have black hair. But in the game, we have more hair colors. So, like, we can, of course, make our characters' hair colors different. But we can also see Navi with the hair colors. And for example, this one is blonde. I like those arches. They're really nice looking. Alright, so what I've noticed in this game, the biomes, they're kind of like separated usually by, like, they're not just all over, like going within each other without borders, but it's usually like a river or something separating them. And we're gonna cross over there. One thing that we can note if we look from here, sorry I went under, if we look at this biome over there, it seems to be more open, while this one is definitely more dense. We already have the same flyers, the sting bats that we can find all over the map. This tree does not have a name, but it's also pretty common here. Yeah, so we can already notice that this area is definitely more dense. Here we have animals, like the hexapede. Oh, come on. Oh, that's the wrong one. I'll guess we see more. And some sort of enemy already. Because you saw that red or the white on my screen that kind of like pinpoints me in the direction where enemies could be. So these are interesting, those plants here, the vein pot. And they explode. And they gave it, so it's like, it's methane and it just pops. You can see that if you want. Oh, and I got flung into the other plant, which I wanted to show you. It's this one here. It's the Kinglor Forest source of light. So that plant is really annoying because it charges up electric. Like there's like an electric charge going on. And so it says the presence has been discovered, blah blah blah, very sensitive. And it is really annoying. Of course, it's ferals. That's actually really interesting. Seeing them getting affected by it as well. I mean, those weren't good shots, but you're not here to watch me be good at gaming. I pressed the wrong button, I'm sorry. I haven't actually played in a while. Now I'm confused again with my controls. See, it's charging up when I get close. It's kind of like being a taser. Stay away from me. I wanted to see if I could find it. Yeah, here we also have this type of fungus-like structure. Well, nature's taking care of it by itself, I guess. Those are interesting. Because you can use them to jump around. What's interesting, and I've noticed that they have different colors depending on, because you can find them all over the all over the areas. This one seems to be in the forest have more this, yeah, a reddish color, while they're green. Again, I've noticed them all over the place. So I think they just like put a different coat of color on them, like with those archer thickets, and you can use them for this. Now it's coming back. Alright. So those are those thingies, the veil pots, the way they look unpopped. It looks really nice though. Yeah, this is the archer thicket. That's the plant that we can use for materials. Cause see, I can pick it up, and even though this part is like blown away by the pot, it can still use it. Those plants are interesting because they look really, really nice. Oh yeah. So these ones, they have a name. So they look at first glance like a cactus, but they are definitely more inspired by those euphorbia plants that kind of like look similar to cacti, but they are not cacti because they have like convergent evolution. They just look like them, and they're found in Africa, especially parts of southern, central, and I think eastern Africa, as far as I know, because I've definitely seen them or similar looking ones in Namibia, but I know they're all over the southern parts. So true cacti are usually more or less, I think there's some species, I might be wrong though, again, sorry, not a plant person. But definitely those cacti, most people think of when they hear a cacti, they're from the Americas, especially North America. But they are more inspired by those euphorbias that kind of look like cacti but are not cacti. So we have those roots again, those big vine-like structures that we can find. And we have those cool trees. The anemone tree. It doesn't really say much about it, but what is interesting when we look at them, because there is a reason why plants have leaves, and that's usually that's for them to, create nourishment. So plants, if you've paid attention to biology, you've heard of photosynthesis. They have the leaf structures to have like a larger surface, so when the sunlight hits, they can, via some more or less complex processes, I don't want to go too much into detail in, kind of like create organic substitute, and this would be glucose, using more or less unorganic. So that's why plants, people think, yeah, of course they use CO2 because they produce it as a side product, or they produce it as a side product in a way, but they also breathe O2. So these plants still need oxygen, but they kind of like produce it. Oh, sorry, no, I said it wrong. They need CO2 and produce oxygen as a side product, but they also breathe O2 oxygen. So just confused, it was a weird day today. Well, the thing I want to say about those anemone trees, if you look at them, they don't have leaf structures. So they just have those tentacle-like structures. So that's like, if it would be on Earth, this plant wouldn't get its like nourishment, or in this case, like, the glucose or the vitamins and minerals or whatever it needs. I mean, vitamins, you can get that through the roots and the water, of course, but like, the nourishment, the glucose it needs to function, it doesn't get it from leaf structures. So usually on Earth, if we see something like this, we can assume it is parasitic, because it doesn't seem to have any way of processing its own glucose by using photosynthesis, because there are no leaves and there is no green color. I look closer at it, we see it has this dark bark-like scales, or the scale-like barks, I guess. They're making weird sounds. I mean, they are methane, so of course they sound kind of like farty. But I guess, like, if I would see that, I'd assume it's parasitic, just because it doesn't have anything to, produce its own plant food. Yeah, those vines are all over the place. It could be, of course, if there's a gigantic vine network out of these plants, maybe they could, you know, parasite on them. Like their roots go deeper and they kind of latch onto those vines. Doesn't necessarily have to be just simply parasitic. It could be like either commensalism, so the plant, I mean, it's probably stealing stuff from them, so not just like sitting on them like epiphytes would do. But it could be some sort of symbiosis, we don't know. But if I just look at this one, I'd assume it's probably getting its yeah, glucose and other stuff it needs to grow by kind of like attaching to a deeper root system, which might be from this vine-like structure here, because it goes into the ground too. So it could be underneath, because usually the stuff you see with plants, or especially fungus, is usually way, way smaller of the actual size of the plant, because most of it is underground, or of course the fungus. So with fungus, you only see the kind of like the mushroom itself, let's call him the fruity, fleshy part, and the biggest part of the mushroom is usually below ground, the mycelium. Does this one have a name? Yeah. I like to check the plants, they have names. I mean, with the stuff I've read through a long time ago, and I usually, sometimes it is a bit weird, especially with the animals and stuff. It's just like, you know what, they describe it in the way they think sounds correct, but then I like to tell people my opinion, like why I think that might be wrong. And here we have another feral, and another one. And what is this down there? Oh, leopard palm. So there's plants that we can collect and use for food too. Let's hope they ignore me. I want to go down there. There's stuff I want to look at. So if we keep going towards this area where the cliffs are, it is definitely more dense here. So far, a lot of the parts we have seen, it's either like dense underbrush and then somewhat open spaces. But here is interesting because it doesn't seem to be, I mean, it is dense, but it's not high. And the trees, like the canopy is pretty, oh yeah, this one too. If I could look at it. Up here we have a, oh, it ran off. I was trying to get it. Some of the animals, they just like skitter past and then I have to try to get them. Really annoying. You can see those over there. They have spikes, so they definitely hurt when you land on them. Come on. It's a Jotun. Now got it. So it does this little rolling motion. I honestly haven't seen too much. I guess it's doing it right now. And it's just hiding. I think this is the first time I've seen them doing that rolling thing. Oh, you can see those lamps because it's getting a bit shady here. I think the sun's setting. I'm not sure, but they have gotten this glow. So with bioluminescence, oh, we've got a stern beast. So some of the larger herbivores we can find here. So with bioluminescence, it's usually the question is if it's emitting constantly bioluminescence, or if it's being triggered by a diurnal rhythm. So like they only produce bioluminescence at night, or if it's like a situation, if it's in a dark spot, it's kind of like the bioluminescence is always on. So I'm not quite sure about that. I mean, I've seen some spots in the game where it's like dark and they seem to have some sort of bioluminescence. Here we can see some too, but it looks more that it's produced by some moss growing on, not by the bark itself. If we just like walk slowly at it, it's gonna stay calm. So these trees are also pretty cool. Now it's lying down. And rolling again. Throwing mud everywhere. So it's neat that they put in a lot of stories, for example the puffball tree, where it tells you, oh, it has like high, you know, toxic gases and sodium. It's always weird for me to read sodium, because sodium is just called sodium in English, because it's natrium where I'm from. So I might confuse that stuff. I mean, I don't usually need to say it a lot, just when you're talking about salt, I guess. Or the ferals are going to be a problem. No. rather they attack me than the nature. Yes, it's pixels, but I don't like being, you know, mean to animals in the games. Well, at least this way we can see some bioluminescence. Yeah, some of the big trees sadly don't have names. It's really interesting to put for me because I like looking at trees and figuring out what type of tree they are. Which I can recommend the plant net. Like you can put in pictures and kind of figure it out. But now I'm standing on it and it's hurting me, but the bioluminescence is really pretty. Like even the spikes have their own bioluminescent color. Here we have some small insect-like animals. Yeah, it looks really nice at night. But you can see it's charging up when I get close. We have animals flying around. So what I've noticed with the smaller ones, the coronas, they seem to move in like different groups. So we have the singular ones we can find at lower levels, but when you fly high up, you can find them in swarms. Here we can see now the bioluminescence. It's like in horizontal stripes. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, so we have those fan lizards flying around. So some animals have actually some sort of behavior that they show up at certain times, but it's very, very rare, I've noticed in this game. Because usually it's the same animals just like constantly doing their thing. Like I could sit here for 24 hours and they would, or 30 hours I think the Pandora time cycle is, like I'm not sure. But it would be the same animals over and over. I wish I could look at those. Because I know they have a name, I'm pretty sure they have a name. This one we already looked at. Yeah, I constantly walk into the electric stuff. The source of light is really annoying. See, I'm now in the open area again. I like to put a little bit of detail into those epithets. Even though they are nameless, they still look really nice. Here we have those double fats again. They are like the healing plants that we can use. Yeah, I got hurt now by the spikes, I think. Yeah, if I run into them, it hurts me. Good to know. You wanna see how it looks like? No animation for it. Now I use the double fat, and now I'm gonna pick it up again. I wanted to get a bit closer to the stern beast so you can see its bioluminescence. Oh, it's hurt again. Come here. I like how it's just charging out of there. That's why it's charging out of there. That's really interesting. You see how it's flaring the ear-like crest structures when it's agitated?
You're going to be okay.
So Hexabeat, the way it's built, is definitely a fleer, not a fighter.
No, don't
Although
go.
even... My bad, I was so focused on talking. Even skittish animals are willing to fight if cornered. So even animals that typically would run away from you if they don't have any other chance, they will fight you. So these plants also look really interesting, but sadly they don't have a name again. Okay, yeah, here we can see more of those anemone trees. So this part is mostly those weird palm-looking ones that are nameless. And then of course the anemone trees. We see more of those insects here. Could be that they're kind of like stag flies without a hive that we can find all over the place. Or stag ants. Sorry, forgot it again. So here we can see there seems to be, like, you know, those armored parts are not really that colorful looking. I mean, they have a bit of a purple, pinkish bioluminescence, but then in between those scales, we have like lots of bioluminescence, which could maybe hint that this part is a little bit thinner, so it kind of like shines through. But it's just like speculating. So we've seen that binary sunshine earlier, this plant here, and it says it like reacts to threat with bioluminescence color, but I don't really noticed that. So sadly, this tree also doesn't have a name, but it has those weird growths on it, which seem to be more of a defense, I guess. Although, usually if a tree reaches this size, there's really nothing that can eat the growth at the top anymore. Because usually young plants want to get protected because if they have this, I think it's called like apical merist? I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know the English name yet. But it's the sprout that has like the terminal growth, I guess. And if a young tree loses that because like animals bite it off, it kind of like grows weird, or it might even die. And so plants will try to protect that. Nice teamwork, plant. So what I was saying is, a tree at this size, the stuff that would hurt it at this size is smaller, and they can easily climb up between. Because usually when a tree reaches a certain size, large grazers or animals that like to eat the soft parts of the tree, like, the little sprouts, they're not a problem anymore. Like, if a tree gets this big, they have to usually worry about the small things, like burrowing, fungus, or beetles that kind of like put in and then kind of like being like in a way like a disease, because the tree itself is something big. And of course they also can get viruses and fungal infections once like a little beetle digs their hole into it, like the larvae. Then, for example, virus spores or fungus spores can get in and then it infects the tree from the inside out. So usually when you're this size, you don't need to worry about the big things anymore, so the thorns would be kind of useless. You need to worry about the small things. We have lots of sting bats here. Come on. So sting bats are interesting, because I don't know if you've seen my aerial predator video, but they seem to reuse the face model, like similarities to the big, the night wraith that Varang rides in the movies. They have this bat-like behavior, but oh, I forgot to show you the coronis. Maybe I can find one. In my opinion, the coronis looks more like a bat, like from the face, than the stink bat does. Yeah, we're pretty close here to the cliffs. Oh, we got two Droptrons. So there is two sizes in this game. There's a smaller one and then the larger one. So we've seen them flying around all over the place. There isn't too much variety, sadly. Like, we don't have a bunch of different birds. Or, sorry, flyers. I like the little slappy walking sounds the Jotun makes. So many little insects, but most of them don't have names at all, just the larger ones. Yeah, the flyers are a real pity. Like, it would be cooler to have way more diversity. Because I actually got a great comment about that. But basically, you reuse the texture, because songbirds are more or less the same type of bird with just a different color slapped on it. Which they could easily do. The model is there, just like slap on different coats and call it, I don't know, stinkbat. And you could just do whatever you want, I guess. So this part is getting more open again, and there seems to be lesser of those anemone trees. Sorry, viewer. Now I can, okay. So those are really nice. The Pandora. I really like them. Because they glow like nice pink and pretty. I do like the color pink. Pink and those magenta colors, really nice. Also turquoise, so I really like the bioluminescence in this game, because it's basically my favorite colors. Here we have a natural path. I forgot about telling you that, because I saw it earlier too. So usually those paths form because animals tend to stick to the same walkways. Kind of like traverse through the habitat over the same, same area. That's how they form over time. Oh, you might have noticed that when I sometimes look at, stuff that I can collect, you see those little thingies flying around. That's because it's kind of like a special rarity. So this is usually better quality. It's a game mechanic. Let's see if I see anything else that I can check for a name. Because I know some of the... There it is. The moon scarab. That they have names. So they tell a lot about the animals. They're like, oh, this animal does this, this animal does that, but we don't really see it. Like, we don't see them, I don't know, using certain behavior. They usually just like are decorative in the background. They just fly around. Still nice though that they, thought about something and put it in. I guess, animating it can be kind of tough. The animal sounds are also really, really nice. Although sadly it's really hard to tell what animal makes them because a lot of them are just like background sounds. But, oh yeah, those are cool too. The cat ear plant. They were really hard for me to discover because you can fill out the hunter's guide and I was like wondering, what is this? I think I've noticed them a couple of times, but I've never kind of like, did the exploring them and then clicking on them. The inspect thingy, and that kind of like stopped me from putting them into the guide. But they're so cool, like they react to you. Then they follow you, directional. Which is, a lot of plants have interesting senses, it's just we don't really, get into focus of that. Like there's plants that are very sensitive, like for example the Venus flytraps. They're like really quick reacting, or those, I think they're called, I have to look it up, I think mimosa plants? Mimosas? I'm not sure what they're called in English, sorry. Yeah, mimosa. Those are the genus name. So here we have something else. Those are kind of like those vines. We have them too. There's like a big group of plants. They're kind of like different species and even different genus, or genera, I guess, that have the same kind of like lifestyle, and they kind of like start up as epiphytes and they grow down, but at some point they can actually kill the host tree by just becoming too heavy and toppling it over, so they kind of like keep standing. But it could be also some sort of other vine. That there's like lots of different plants around, and some of them are just like epiphytes that they like to grow down and then they don't grow too big. I'm sorry, that animal that's just like doing a weird cicada noise in the background is... Yeah, there it is. Sadly, again, we can't really tell which animal is making which sounds unless we definitely see them do it. And even then we can't be sure because they're just like background sounds. But yeah, those vines are really interesting. Because we have so many different plants. Because even plants, even though, they don't do much in the common sense, as they don't run away, they have interesting... I think you would call them behaviors as a plant, because it's something more spontaneous. But they definitely have interesting life adaptations, I guess. Different, things that help them get their own little niche and establishing themselves. I want to see if I can get a bit closer here, because I saw some of those shimmy flies. Sadly, no. It's also really nice looking at those plants we can find all over. And that is something that is true if you're in an area, there it is, where there is a lot of, like in this area it's large, we've got so many different areas and different niches, because every part of the tree could be, or definitely is its own niche. So you have different animals living on the top of the tree in the canopy, then you have living in the midsection, or even the roots, like so many different types of small animals, like insects we don't even see in this game. They would be present in a, real life situation. And the more biodiverse a habitat is, the more special you have to be to kind of like, make yourself known. If you have like a lone wolf that howls in the night, and it's like, some kind of tundra or taiga, where it's like empty space, you hear that. But here, in this biodiverse system, it's all interesting, it hurts you when you step on it. In an area so biodiverse, everyone has to be very loud to get themselves known. It's usually for attracting a mate. So those teilu we can see all over. It's really interesting because they seem to be in this form already, although they clearly are inspired by some sort of caterpillar, but it doesn't say that they kind of like, puppet and then become a Pandora butterfly, I guess. Also have those palm trees, and again, some of the plants are just like, pasted copy from real life. So this spot would definitely be great for flyers. Because this area definitely would be a great nesting spot with the cliffs, because really nothing that can fly can reach you up there. And even here in between you could probably build nests. So I think that's like the 6th time in this one video where I had to fight off ferals. This was also really neat, because they seem to have this woody stem, and then here the flowers and the leaves start. The goblin thistle. And what is interesting so far, I haven't seen any Navi. Because usually you have the Navi crouching around or hunting or collecting plant material. Because if you've seen like I tried to stop at the hunter's guides, there's lots of information in there that the Navi use it for this, the Navi use it for that. So it's really interesting, so you can see them, you know, in the area actually collecting that. Was it just like ferals stranded on an island over there? Hope they stay there. You know how annoying the ferals have been recently? Have to cut out so much stuff. Well, probably cut out a lot of in this video too. There's even more ferals. Can bait it into it. It's a very hyena sound they do. Yeah, so I was walking along here. There wasn't really too much interesting happening except a few thousand ferals. And it's interesting when you see the density of the canopy, how it's switching. Also the size difference that we have in the different trees, especially the anemone trees. So we got some more slim ones. Oh, this is a nice color texture bead. So you can see the outlines. It's more kind of like this, kind of like an aura. That is kind of like it shows the quality, but they also have different color too. So this is kind of like a mature one. So it has different or better quality materials. So if I want to make some nice pants out of it, I'd have to harvest it for get some better quality pants. I do like the pattern though, and they have this shaggy fur on top. And it's just like scratching itself. My horse did today. It's really cute when they do that. It feels weird though when you're on top, because they're kind of like scratching themselves, but they're still standing on 3 legs, which is really weird because you feel like the horse is going to topple over at any second. Also, what we can see here, the tree has lost some of its bark, which could be like due to an injury. So usually if we see stuff like this, it could be that something is kind of like rubbing itself on that tree. That's usually how you can spot signs of an animal being in the area, because a lot of animals like to rub themselves and scratch themselves on trees. And of course, if you have something with claws... Oh, I stepped on that. That's why I was catapulted into the air. You see animals with claws, you know they kind of like sharpen their claws. That's how you can usually know a certain animal, for example a bear or some type of cat is in the area. You need to just find, you know, signs of their presence, even though you don't see them. You can just look for those, signs. And it's weird because it's not up on the top, so it seems to suggest that something is creating those marks. Although for a stern beast, the pretty large ones, it would be hard to get up here, I guess, because it's kind of like unstable. And animals that are, you know, usually don't like to risk breaking their legs, so they don't step onto stuff like this. Except for horses, they will step onto anything. Domestic horses, I should say. The horse is a pet, it likes to kind of like get itself into weird situations. And if you've played The Witcher, you've seen the horse roach on the roof, maybe. I didn't even see that one at first. But you can see how it's using the... Oh, don't run into that. Okay, good. How it's using the neural cues, kind of like navigating. You saw it earlier too, when the one was agitated. It was also like pointing the neural cues at me, maybe to sense. So here we can see a bit of the underground part of the anemone tree. But sadly, don't see where it goes. Yeah, here we have a stone beast. Just like walking through stuff. I honestly don't know if it's called a Sturm Beast or Sturm, because I would pronounce it like that, meaning storm in German, by the way. So I was talking about those thorns earlier, which is interesting because now they also are a surface for some other type of plants is growing on them. So the Jotun are just like crawling all over the place. We can find Jotun eggs too. I haven't found them so far, like in this one session, because I just didn't look for them because they like to build their nests up top, away from the ground. Here we have another Jotun just crawling around. Sometimes they kind of like despawn, yeah, like this. Sometimes you see them kind of like burrow into the ground, which also doesn't make too much sense. So we are in here in this natural clearing area, still of the Thorny Wilds biome. So what is typical if we have an area that is kind of like densely forested with the canopy closing up and stopping the light, like when you reach an open spot like this, it's usually plants kind of like fighting to become the next one that covers the sky. So it's usually pretty kind of like, yeah, a race. You have plants that do well, they kind of like are the first ones that settle into these areas, and then you have the slow movers that try to reach up pretty high too. So everyone has their role in an ecosystem, and it's sometimes, you know, you versus them. Even for plants it's tough. Yeah, so now we're reaching an area that's gonna give way to the water area down there, the waterfall. So we saw the plants change a little bit. The dense trees stopped, and it's getting more open, and the trees are getting smaller, which could be due to the reason that the habitat is kind of like more uneven and steep. So the big trees, kind of like when they get too big, they might not have enough grip, I guess, and then just fall off and topple over. So only smaller plants can survive here. That's usually the case when it's getting more steeper. Especially for, I mean, there are some trees that are very adapted. So we have those nice areas here. So right now I'm in the border area again, where here we can see, here we actually have a border. I thought it was usually just like by some marks, but we can see the Thorny Wilds biome going over to the big leaf one. But I think it's a nice place to stop because we have a bunch of different biomes here and we're in the border area. Yeah, the big leaf meets the Thorny meets the Swamp Lowlands one. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you liked it. Sorry if I was a bit confused, it was a weird day today. And then I get sometimes a bit tired and that my English is weird. But other than that, I hope you liked it. I wanted to make a slow-paced one for this time because the other ones have been pretty much for me jumping to locations, having to edit a lot, getting more footage. So I hope you like the, you know, the one where I just like, you know, show and tell, I guess, and we just look at stuff and we, yeah, see nature for what it is, and or I explain as I go, showing you different things. Well, I hope you have a nice day, and again, hope you enjoyed it, and with that, I'll say bye!